As a single mom making low income, options for living on my own during a still ongoing housing crisis were very limited. This, combined with a deep yearning to be in nature and to live slowly, led me to buy this camper. And I have been living in it full time now for over 2 years with my son and our two little kittens. While it was an upfront investment and I did have to take out a loan, it has overall saved me so much money by avoiding insanely high rents and mortgages. So today I am going to be doing a deep dive into all of my expenses, living both stationary and on the road, ways that I budget, then all about my income and other things that I've done to help supplement income. The first thing I will say is that RV life or life on the road can be as cheap or as expensive as you make it to be. But me personally, I try to keep things more on the cheaper side because that was a big reason why I did this lifestyle. If I were to do anything differently, I probably would have spent more time looking around for an RV and maybe would have bought it directly through the seller, like on Facebook Market or something. So that way it would have been cheaper and then I could have paid it all up front and avoided taking out a loan. But at that time, I was just so ready to move out of my parents' house and start my own life. So, starting off with our fixed bills while living stationary. Fixed bills for us include rent, utilities, my RV loan payment and insurance, my truck payment and insurance, internet, phone bill, and monthly subscriptions. The biggest difference between living on the road and living stationary is rent. So, when we travel, it's typically for about 2 to 4 months out of the year, and we stay on free public campsites like BLM land or USFS land. So we don't have to pay any rent, and that saves us a lot of money. While that was initially the plan was to travel full time, I had to prioritize my son's needs, and that meant staying closer to family, which means we are in Texas, our home state, for most of the year. So when we are here, we are staying at this mobile home park. We've stayed in our RV park before too, but I chose this mobile home park because it was a lot closer to my family, and I found it at a pretty good price. So I pay $450 in rent, and that's a little bit under the typical RV park price in my area. But unlike an RV park, I actually have to sign a lease here. So I sign a 6-month lease, which is the shortest, and I can pretty much do anything I want to the land. In the past, we stayed here for like 9 months, and I made a temporary fence and made it more homey, but this time around I kind of just wanted it to be more simple. I also have my own mailbox, which is pretty cool. For water and utilities, I typically pay around $70, and this includes the trash disposal fee, which I actually get my own trash can and the people will come pick it up. So that's actually been really nice. My electricity bill varies on the weather here in Texas. In the cooler months, it's around $60, $70. And then when it gets hot, it can be up to $100. And that's because we are running the AC a lot more, which I think takes the most power in an RV. But I do try to keep my doors and windows open as much as I can when the weather is nice. And then that way we can get a nice little cross breeze in. Another thing I do to help bring down the electricity bill cost is use my solar panel and solar batteries. I think it helps some. I usually use it for the air fryer or my electric kettle. And those do run quite a bit of power. So next to rent, my biggest payment is my RV loan payment, and it's almost $300. In total, my RV was $22,900, and I put $4,500 down on it. And currently, I have just under $12K to pay left on it. You can see a little bit more about that in this video. It really kind of sucks because I've spent like over $2,000 in interest. But I will say the credit union that I went with, EECU, was pretty good with an interest rate of 7.99. One of my big goals is to pay that off this year. As far as my truck payment goes, I actually bought my truck from my stepdad, who sold it to me for a really good price at $20,000, and he let me put 15K up front and pay the rest off slowly. So that payment is about $105, and I currently have 1,745 left to pay on it. My internet is the cheapest plan that I could get from Verizon. It's about $40. And same for my phone plan, the cheapest plan through Verizon, and it is $43.5. My RV insurance is pretty good. It's around $81, and I got it through Geico. And then for my truck insurance, it's through Progressive and $120. And then the only monthly subscription that I pay is Netflix, and that is $8.65. So the total amount for my fixed bills while living stationary is $1,274. Then when we're living on the road, we are just using our solar setup and sourcing our own water, and we don't have to pay rent. So if you subtract $580 from that, that comes out to be $694. Then I do get rid of my Verizon internet, which is $40, and I switch over to Starlink, which is a hefty price of $165 a month. So the total for fixed bills living on the road comes out to be $819. So my variable expenses, or the fluctuating expenses, include my groceries, propane, fresh drinking water, laundry, and gas money. So the biggest fund out of those is, of course, groceries. And I spend about $300 to $350 a month for one adult female and one 10-year-old boy. And I realize now that that's actually a pretty good price. Most people spend a lot more on groceries, but I think that I have gotten a good routine of budgeting. Honestly, the thing that saves me the most money is cooking all of our meals from home. We eat about 90% of our meals at home. And I'm also what you would call a granola mom or an ingredient household. So if you want a snack, you're probably just going to have to eat some chocolate chips because we really don't buy snacks unless they're on a sale. And we do still eat out. So I budget about $20 to $25 a week on eating out, which is a pretty strict budget. I do that mainly for my son because he's a kid and of course he wants to eat out at his favorite fast food restaurant. So as far as restaurants, I was just thinking about this the other day and I realized I don't think we've been, oh wait, okay, we've been, the last time we went to a sit down restaurant where you actually tip someone is during our travels, and that was like in the summertime. So it's February 2026 now. So it's been a while since we actually went to a sit down restaurant. That's just like, I don't know, something that's not really a priority because I can always make food just as good, if not better. Elfie, go on, mama. Because not to like brag or flex or anything, but I can usually make everything and make it even better. Like anytime I eat out, I feel like I'm kind of disappointed because it like lacks seasoning or they just don't put enough oomph to it. And so I always end up like doctoring my meals anyway, like adding ingredients and just making it better and adding more too. Like the portion sizes are like really small, I feel like. Definitely eating at home, cooking your own meals, and you can keep it simple too. That is going to help you a lot. We also practice low waste, so everything we buy gets eaten. And I feel like I know every ingredient we need and what is going to be in our weekly meal rotation, so nothing gets to waste. I also shop at like 3 to 4 different grocery stores, which is a little insane. I feel like that's how you know you're an adult. Because I'll like shop around for deals, and there's like certain stores where I get specific items for the better price. But for most of my produce, I actually use a local farmers market. It's about 20 minutes into the city. But it's so worth it to me because, for one, it's a small family Mexican owned business, and I'm always going to choose to support small where I can. El Fino. And then also, they just happen to be so much more affordable than your big chain grocery stores because they get their food directly from the supplier. So that cuts down a lot of cost. And their food is all organic. So it's like the best thing for you. Then the other grocery stores I use are the bigger ones like Kroger and Walmart. Not so much Walmart, but only for certain things. And for those, I utilize the grocery app. So I'll order my groceries for pickup. That way I can be more mindful when I'm like grocery shopping instead of like going in person and like impulse buying things, or like if you're hungry and you like see something you want and you buy it, you're less likely to do that whenever you're in the app and you can see the total price and like go and take off things that maybe you don't need at the end, and that way you stay in your budget. I also do that living on the road too. I'll make pickup orders because most of the time a Walmart is like an hour away from us. So having it planned whenever I'm going to go into town to get like errands or something, I'll make the grocery order and pick it up while I'm doing that. For gas, I typically fill up 1 to 2 times a month, and that costs about $60 to $120. Gas is pretty cheap here in Texas, one of the good things about this state, and it's about $2.50 a gallon. I just don't do that much driving because I work remotely from home and my son is homeschooled. And then, of course, when traveling, it's going to be more expensive for gas because we are typically out pretty much every day doing different adventures and exploring the cities there because there's just so much nature and so many things to do. And so that can range from about $150 to $200, I would say. For laundry, we really just do like one big load a month. It cost me about $10. I was doing it at my parents' house for a while, but I recently just started doing it on my own. But sometimes I still will do it at my parents, so that helps too. Then for propane, we spend either nothing or like $25 because I find that I don't really have to fill my propane that much. And then for fresh water, I have 4 5-gallon jugs that I fill up. We fill those up about twice a month, and that comes out to be about $20. So in total, that is $471 while living stationary, and then $556 while traveling. So the grand total of all the bills accumulated for living stationary is $1,745, and then $1,375 for traveling. So a difference of about $370, which now that I calculated all of that out, I feel like that's not that much, but it actually kind of is when you don't make as much money. Like that's a pretty good chunk of the total income. So now to talk about income. I actually have a video about this if you want to check that out. Just to keep it brief, I work remotely in healthcare, and it's actually an entry-level job, so I don't really make that much. But it happens to be a lot more because I work for a company based in the PNW. Their minimum wage is like double the minimum wage of Texas, so they just naturally pay more. So that's really nice and helpful. So currently, I work about 20 to 30 hours a week, and I've been making about $2,000 a month. And then whenever I travel, I usually lower my hours a bit to 10 to 20 hours a week just so I can be more present and do more things and live my life. But I actually think that I'm going to keep my current hours this year for when I travel so that way I can save more money and also pay off my debt more. The nice thing about my job is that it's really flexible, so I can pretty much work as little or as much as I want to. So if I did want to work more, make more money, I could. And then some other gigs that I've done that have helped me supplement my income. I'm very much a firm believer of having multiple streams of income. So one of them is actually called D-Scout. A lot of people have said to like gatekeep this because it's actually such a good, credible side gig. It's basically marketing researchers that are paying you for your opinion. So if you are opinionated and you're good at talking on the camera, this gig is for you. I'll put the total of how much I've made, and that was like in 1 year, I think that I made that. It was like over $1,000, and then I kind of kept doing it a little bit here and there. The key is to pretty much open the app every day and apply to as many applications as you can. They take like a couple minutes each, and then they'll reach out to you if you meet the requirements, and then you can actually do the real job to get the money. And it's actually really fun, low effort, and yeah. Another gig that I've done is Depop. I haven't made as much from Depop because I wasn't like that consistent with it, but I kind of sold some of my clothes and I would go thrifting, and if I found something like I knew was going to be good value or like a vintage item, then I would sell it on there. So I know that people have made like a living off of Depop, and it can be a really profitable side gig if you put the effort in to go thrifting and search for all the good finds. But I just can't really do that. My life doesn't really allow me to do that too often. Other thing I've done is selling things like on Facebook Market. I used to sell plants a lot. I would propagate plants like little pothos and sell them for like $5 each. But now I put all my plants in my mom's house because it's just too hard while traveling. And then the last thing I've done for income is open my own business. I also announced this in a video, but I have opened my own art shop, and I have an Etsy shop now, and also just make most of my sales by like word of mouth. So people I know or like their friends that know them, and they like pass it on. So that's been how I've been making most of my income. It's been like a few months that I've started. I was most active in November and December, like around the holiday times, and then I kind of took a break. So I haven't made as much the past couple of months. I did actually pretty good, I think, in November, December. It was like $400 each. That's really all I've done for supplementing income. I will say I'm a single mom. If you've been following me for a while, you know that. I don't receive child support, unfortunately. Although, if I did, that would help me out so much. Even though when I was receiving it, it was like $300, but still, like, that would really lift a weight off of my shoulders. But, yeah, I don't get that. There's been other ways I've been pursuing diversifying my income and kind of like wanting to take on less work at my day job and move toward other things. So I have been pursuing YouTube, and actually, I just got into the YouTube Partner Program, which is so exciting. I am not at the point where you can get money for ads just yet. We're almost there. I am able to offer supers, so if people wanted to like donate to me, they could do that through here on YouTube. And then monthly subscriptions, which I am figuring out and now offering as well. So definitely head over to my channel to check that out if you want to just support my videos and the production of them, and if you'd like to see more videos too. But if not, you can always just leave a like, comment, and subscribe because that helps my channel out so much. And I seriously appreciate all of you for watching and being here. It means the world. If you have any other questions about my bills, income, budgeting, anything like that, just leave it in the comments below and I will answer all of you. Hope to see you next time. Bye!